A dusty Georgia road, the roar of the General Lee tearing through the air. Two cousins flying over rivers and dirt hills like gravity had simply given up trying to hold them down. For millions of viewers, the Dukes of Hazzard wasn't just a TV show. It was a feeling. It was freedom. It was rebellion. It was that wild, carefree spirit that made you believe anything was possible as long as you had family by your side. But behind the high-speed chases, behind the laughter and that iconic orange car, real life was far more complicated than anything we saw on screen. Some of the cast rode that fame into lasting success. Some quietly disappeared from Hollywood, choosing a different kind of life. And others faced struggles, heartbreak, and personal battles far more intense than any scripted storyline. Because while Hazzard County looked simple, the lives behind it were anything but. So what really happened to the stars who made this show unforgettable? And which story will surprise you the most when we look at them now? Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. When you think back to Hazzard County, who was your favorite? Was it Bo with his fearless charm? Luke with his cool confidence? Daisy turning heads wherever she went? Or Boss Hogg with his unforgettable schemes? Drop your answer in the comments. I'll be reading every one. Back in 1979, something special hit television screens across America. The Dukes of Hazzard arrived with a simple formula: fast cars, big personalities, and a sense of humor that didn't take itself too seriously. And somehow, that formula worked better than anyone could have imagined. Week after week, audiences tuned in to watch the Duke boys outsmart the law, protect their family, and leap over impossible obstacles in the General Lee. It became more than entertainment. It became a cultural moment. At its peak, the show pulled in massive ratings, turning its cast into instant household names. Kids wanted to be them. Adults couldn't stop watching them. And suddenly, the actors behind these characters were living lives just as fast-paced as the show itself. But fame like that doesn't come without pressure. Behind the scenes, while cameras were rolling and engines were roaring, real life was unfolding in ways the audience never saw. Careers were being shaped. Expectations were rising, and for some, the spotlight brought challenges they weren't prepared for. Because long after the jumps ended, and long after the cameras stopped rolling, the real stories were just beginning. Ben Jones brought something special to Hazzard County. As Cooter, he wasn't just the town mechanic, he was the guy you could always count on. Greasy hands, a quick smile, and a loyalty that never wavered. Off-screen, though, his story took a very different road. While many actors chase fame for as long as they can, Ben Jones made a choice that surprised a lot of fans. He stepped away from Hollywood and into public service. Trading scripts for speeches, he entered politics and eventually served as a U.S. congressman. It wasn't a temporary experiment either. It became a defining chapter of his life. What makes his journey stand out is how grounded it remained. No major scandals, no dramatic collapses, just a steady transition from television star to someone trying to make a real-world impact. In a world where fame often leads to chaos, his story feels almost rare. A quiet kind of success that didn't need headlines to matter. Sonny Schroyer gave us Enos, the soft-spoken, kind-hearted deputy who somehow always felt out of place in the chaos of Hazzard County. There was an innocence to him, a sincerity that made him instantly lovable. That charm was so strong, it even led to his own spin-off series. For a moment, it looked like Sonny Schroyer might break out into even bigger stardom. But like many stories in Hollywood, momentum can fade just as quickly as it arrives. After his time in the spotlight, he gradually stepped away from major roles. Not because of scandal or failure, but because the industry simply moved on. And yet, there's something admirable about the way he handled it. No noise, no controversy, just a quiet return to a more private life, staying connected to acting in smaller ways and remaining deeply appreciated by fans who never forgot him. James Best was something else entirely. As Sheriff Rosco P. Coltrane, he wasn't just funny, he was unforgettable. The exaggerated expressions, the perfectly timed comedy, the way he could turn even the simplest moment into something memorable. But long before Hazzard County, James Best had already lived a full career in Hollywood. Westerns, dramas, character roles, he had done it all. And after the show ended, he didn't disappear. He kept working, teaching, and passing on what he had learned to younger actors. His journey wasn't without challenges. Like many character actors, he faced the constant struggle of staying relevant in an industry that always looks for something new. But he never lost the respect of those who knew his work. He became more than just a performer. He became a mentor, a teacher, and a reminder that longevity in Hollywood isn't about fame alone. It's about dedication. Denver Pyle, who played Uncle Jesse, was the emotional backbone of the entire show. He represented wisdom, stability, and that old-school sense of right and wrong. On screen, he felt like family. And in many ways, he was. What many fans don't realize is that Denver Pyle had already spent decades building a career before stepping into Hazzard County. Westerns, war films, television. He had seen the industry evolve over time. By the time he became Uncle Jesse, he wasn't just acting. He was bringing a lifetime of experience into every scene. In his later years, life slowed down. Health issues began to take their toll, and eventually, he passed away, leaving behind a legacy that stretched far beyond a single role. But for those who watched the show, he never really left. Because Uncle Jesse wasn't just a character. He was a symbol of something many people feel is missing today. Strength, kindness, and a quiet moral compass that held everything together. Let me ask you something for a moment. If you could bring back one character from Hazzard County exactly as they were, no changes, no time passed, who would it be? Tell me in the comments. I really want to know what this show still means to you today. Catherine Bach didn't just play Daisy Duke. She became a cultural phenomenon. With her signature style, confidence, and undeniable presence, she turned a television role into something iconic. In fact, the term Daisy Dukes became part of everyday language, a symbol of an era that many still remember today. At the height of the show, she was more than just a star. She was everywhere. Posters, magazines, interviews, she represented a kind of effortless charisma that defined late 70s and early 80s pop culture. But behind that image, life wasn't always as bright as it seemed. As the years passed, her career naturally shifted. The spotlight softened, roles became less frequent, and like many actors tied to a defining role, she had to navigate what came next. But the most difficult chapter came not from Hollywood, but from her personal life. She faced a heartbreaking loss within her family, a tragedy that deeply affected her world. And in those moments, far away from cameras and applause, she had to find strength in a very different way. What stands out about Catherine Bach isn't just her fame, it's her resilience. The ability to endure, to adapt, and to keep moving forward even when life changes everything. John Schneider was the kind of star who seemed destined for long-term success. As Beau Duke, he had that natural charm, that easy confidence that made him instantly likable. Audiences connected with him, and for a time, it felt like his career was only going in one direction: up. But John Schneider didn't limit himself to acting. He expanded into music, building a successful country career. He directed, produced, and explored different sides of the entertainment world. On the surface, it looked like a perfect transition, the kind many actors hope for but rarely achieve. Yet behind that success, challenges began to emerge. Legal issues and financial struggles started to shape parts of his later life. Headlines shifted from career achievements to personal difficulties. And like many who experience early fame, the pressure of maintaining it all became its own kind of burden. Still, what defines his story isn't just the struggle, it's persistence. Again and again, he found ways to rebuild, to create, and to stay connected to his craft. His journey reminds us that success isn't always a straight line. Sometimes, it's a series of comebacks. Tom Wopat, the man behind Luke Duke, took a different path entirely. While many expected him to remain in television, he quietly reinvented himself in a world far removed from Hazzard County: the stage. On Broadway, he found a new identity. A respected performer with real vocal talent, earning recognition in a completely different arena. It wasn't just a continuation of his career, it was a transformation. He proved that he was more than a single role, more than a single era. But later in life, that image became more complicated. Legal controversies brought unwanted attention, casting a shadow over years of hard-earned respect. Suddenly, the narrative around him began to change, shifting from admiration to scrutiny. And that's the thing about time. It doesn't just reveal growth, it reveals complexity. Tom Wopat's story is one of talent, reinvention, and the difficult reality that even the most respected figures can face moments that redefine how they are seen. Sorrel Booke gave life to one of television's most unforgettable villains. Boss Hogg was loud, greedy, and almost cartoonish in his schemes, a character audiences loved to laugh at. But the man behind that white suit was nothing like the role he played. In reality, Sorrel Booke was highly educated, deeply intelligent, and spoke multiple languages. He was refined, thoughtful, and far removed from the exaggerated persona that made him famous. That contrast alone makes his story fascinating, a reminder of just how much actors can disappear into a role. Yet, despite his talent, much of his identity became tied to Boss Hogg. It's a double-edged sword in Hollywood. When a character becomes iconic, it can be hard to escape it. And for Booke, that shadow followed him long after the show ended. He lived a relatively private life, avoiding the spotlight in ways many of his co-stars didn't. But behind that privacy were personal struggles that remained largely unseen by the public. And then, unexpectedly, his life came to an early end. His passing felt sudden, quiet, almost like the final curtain closed without warning. But what he left behind is undeniable. A performance so distinct that decades later, Boss Hogg is still instantly recognizable. And perhaps that's the true measure of his legacy. Not the man people thought they knew, but the unforgettable character he brought to life. Waylon Jenning wasn't just part of the Dukes of Hazzard, he was its voice. That opening narration, that unmistakable tone, that sense of storytelling that pulled you into Hazzard County before a single scene even began. That was him. But long before the show, Waylon Jenning was already a legend. A pioneer of outlaw country music, he built a career defined by rebellion, authenticity, and a refusal to follow the rules. He lived the kind of life his music spoke about: raw, intense, and often unpredictable. And with that lifestyle came consequences. He battled addiction. He faced serious health issues. There were moments where everything he had built seemed at risk of falling apart. The very spirit that made him iconic also pushed him into dangerous territory. But unlike many stories that end in tragedy, Waylon Jenning found a way back. He fought through those struggles, regained control of his life, and continued to create music that resonated deeply with his audience. His journey is one of extremes. highs that reached legendary status, and lows that tested everything he was. And in the end, it's that resilience, that refusal to be defined by his worst moments, that makes his story so powerful. Rick Hurst brought warmth and humor to Deputy Cletus, a character that added heart to the chaos of Hazzard County. He had a natural likability, the kind that didn't need exaggeration to work. You believed him. You rooted for him. But after the show ended, his career didn't follow the same upward path as some of his co-stars. Like many actors tied to a beloved series, he faced the challenge of finding consistent roles in a constantly changing industry. There were appearances, smaller parts, moments in the spotlight, but nothing quite like the magic of those earlier years. As time went on, life became more complicated. Health struggles began to emerge, bringing with them emotional challenges that are rarely talked about in public. Because behind every familiar face is a life that continues long after the cameras stop. And that's what makes Rick Hurst's story so human. It's not about dramatic scandals or headline-making controversy. It's about endurance, about navigating the quiet difficulties that come with aging, with change, with the fading of something that once defined you. He remains beloved by fans, not just for the role he played, but for the feeling he gave them. A reminder that sometimes the most lasting impact doesn't come from being the biggest star, but from being the one people remember with genuine affection. The Dukes of Hazzard gave us more than just laughter and high-speed chases. It gave us characters who felt like family, moments that felt alive, and a world that, for a little while, made everything seem simpler. But time has a way of moving forward, whether we're ready or not. The cast grew older. Their journeys unfolded in ways no writer could have imagined. Some found quiet happiness away from the spotlight. Some faced struggles that changed them forever. And yet, when we look back, none of that erases what they created together. Because Hazzard County was never just a place on a map. It was a feeling, a connection, a reminder of a time when freedom meant an open road and family meant everything. And somehow, even after all these years, it still lives on. Not just on old reruns, but in the memories, the laughter, and the hearts of everyone who grew up watching it. If this video brought back even a small piece of that feeling for you, take a moment to like it. Tell me your favorite character, or the one scene you'll never forget. I'd truly love to hear your story. And if you enjoy going deeper into the real lives behind the shows you grew up with, don't forget to subscribe. Because there are so many more stories like this, waiting to be remembered.